Hello, classmates. Are you aware that the majority of bananas sold come from one type of banana plant and that they are being killed off at an alarming rate by the Panama disease? There are over 1,000 species of bananas, and 95% of those bananas come from the Cavendish plant. The majority of the time, this isn't a problem, but since there's such a high demand for them, farmers have found a quicker and more efficient way of farming these bananas called monoculture. And in a monoculture, the farmers are essentially cloning them by taking one parent plant and then making exact replicas of that plant. This is good because it takes the guesswork out of farming, but it's also bad because all of them have the same disease resistances, so none of them can get more disease resistant. They all stay the same. And the Panama disease has figured out a way to get past that resistance and attack them directly, and it's just devastating the banana crops. And further into the speech, I will tell you what the Panama disease is, how it affects the environment, and how we are trying to combat this. The Panama disease is a soil pathogen which infects the root system and goes on to colonize the plant through the vascular system. This creates a problem because it's not only in the plant, it is also in the soil, which can stay in the soil for decades. And that means we cannot grow bananas for many years in that area without expensive soil treatments. But the Cavendish is not the first victim of the Panama disease. There was another banana plant in the 1950s called the Gros Michel, and it was the most popular plant, but it's also grown as a monocot, and the Panama disease got into that and made it impossible to grow. But many farmers found out that the Cavendish plants, they could do the same thing. They could use the monoculture, but it was immune to the Panama disease, or they thought. It was actually just extremely resistant to it. And over the 50 years that it's been since the Cavendish has been the main plant, the Panama disease has evolved to bypass the resistances of the Cavendish and are just destroying it. And the Panama disease has the power to destroy countries because many of their cash crops are bananas. There are such as Colombia, Ecuador, and Guatemala. In Costa Rica, nearly 100,000 jobs rely on, or directly or indirectly, on banana production. That's about 80% of the country's total employment. And without bananas, it would completely devastate. It would destroy Costa Rica's entire country because they will just be out of jobs. And you may be asking how we can combat this. Well, it's hard because the easiest way is to make the banana plants even more disease resistant using chemicals, but it is awful for the soil. It gets into the soil and spreads out and destroys other plants around it because those plants don't need those certain chemicals, and it just harms them. There's another way to treat the soil itself to make it immune to the disease, the Panama disease, because it is in the soil, but it is highly illegal to do that. You're not allowed to mess with the soil in most countries, and again, it's just awful for the surrounding plants around it. The only plan that we have so far is to do research and hope that some scientists make a breakthrough and figure out how to destroy this Panama disease, because it's a fungus, and we don't do much research on fungi because usually they're not that big of an issue. Okay, and to conclude this speech, Panama disease is a fungus that targets and kills bananas. This is a big problem because most popular bananas plants today, the Cavendish, are essentially clones of each other, so they're all susceptible to the Panama disease. And we don't have a good way to stop the Panama disease from spreading because we just don't know that much about it, and we have to hope that some scientists make a breakthrough before all the Cavendish plants are killed off. Okay.